12 new subclasses have been added in patch 8 of Baldur's Gate 3, allowing for a ton of new combinations to some of our favorite classes. But with all the new options comes all the new paralysis. How many Hexblade levels do I take? Do I take enough Paladin levels to be effective? What exactly is a Swarmkeeper? Well, in this video today, I want to help crack the mystique behind this by taking a look at each of the new subclasses to talk about their level breaks. We'll take a look at their features, what levels they get them, and then discuss some quick combos or class combos, multi-class combos that will work really well in tandem with those break points, so you can decide what ones are worth building into or sacrificing for your builds. In my typical fashion of upfronting the knowledge in my videos, let me give you the down and dirty of what we'll be getting into. With the majority of the new subclasses, multi-classing them is actually really convenient and easy. Basically, you're looking at just 6 levels to get most of the important features online. The Hexblade's Specters, Shadow Sorcerer's Summons, Death Cleric's Necrotic Resistance Break, Giant Barb's Elemental Cleaver, the list goes on. So building into them is actually really convenient because you can get a lot of great stuff online. What you really want to look at though is what comes before or after that from the parent class to help you decide if you need to go to level 6. Take for example, most casters get their important level 3 spells at level 5, or extra attack coming in for the majority of martial classes at that same level. Do you need those level 3 spells? Do you need extra attack? That's how you can really weigh that. Furthermore, maybe look at something like level 7, where you get a lot of strong utility abilities. We'll go over that a lot in a bit, but that's really the biggest point in this entire video. 6 levels of any of the new subclasses is most of the time just enough to get the lion's share of what that subclass does. But if that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to shut the video down. As always, I want to be respectful of your time. You can jump to any part of the video or class in this video that interests you the most using the chapters about the timeline in the description. Before you head out, if you find the information in this video helpful, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe, as each one of those things helps me out in a huge way. Also, take a look at my Twitch, linked in the comment and description, where I will be streaming my new Pure Evil run using the builds that I am building on the channel that are linked in the upper right hand corner. Let's get started on how to multi-class the new subclasses in Baldur's Gate 3. So to get us started really quickly, let me just go through a primer of how we're going to approach this. And I'm just going to be using the BG3 wiki to do this because it's easier to reference things back and forth other than trying to do it in the game and navigating a bunch of menus. But enjoy the pleasant sound of the game in the background. So when we're taking a look at those subclasses, right, like the Hexblade over here, we know that we want to pull certain things in from their abilities and what have you, but we really want to take a look at that parent class first, because we'll talk about those things as we go through them. But this is what I meant in the opening of the video, the description of the Too Long Didn't Watch the video, is that at level 5 we get Deepen Pack. That's our extra attack. That's our those are good boons. Eldritch Invocation, but also level 7 we get more Eldritch Invocations. Eldritch Invocations, to be totally fair, with when it comes to Warlock, aren't that amazing after a certain point, but Monk gets their evasion ability, Barbarian gets their special diet alert where they can't be surprised, and it's plus your initiative. I'm pretty sure that's level 7. But my point remains here is you just kind of want to look at these parent classes. These parent classes give you an idea of what the breakout is, right? Like the packed boons, the subclass features, this is telling us when we're going to get those other breakpoints for our new subclasses, or just subclasses in general when we look at the parent class. But take a look at these when you're thinking about, hey, you know what? I'm looking at a Hexblade Warlock, and how do I bring this into Sorcerer? Well, let me look at the parent of the Sorcerer first, before you look at the Shadow Sorcerer itself and go, okay, well, I know I want specific spell levels from certain things. I want certain cantrips known, whatever it is. Make sure you're able to glean that information. And another important portion of this when it comes to setting up your multi-classing is determining how you can draw as many feats into your build as possible. Remember, every class, for the exception of 2, gets feats at 4, 8, and 12. The fighter gets them at 4, 6, 8, and 12. But the rogue gets it at 4, 8, 10, and 12. Everyone else is in that every quarter bracket right there, right? Like 4, 8, and 12. So that's why a lot of people will say, hey, I'm going to have an even split, 8 and 4, 6 and 6, something like 10 and 2, something like that, that gives them access to 2 feats from one or multiple classes. When you do a 5-7 split, just know that, yeah, you're going to get 1 feat from both, but you just kind of want to know how that feat is going to fall. And even further, a 5-7 split, if you're doing 7 fighter, gives you 3 feats. So just being aware of those things. Feats is a weird thing to say because feat already sounds plural in my mind. But either way, just being aware of those things before we jump into this is pretty crucial to determining how to multi-class any of these subclasses. So we're going to start here with the Arcane Archer, and how I'm going to do this is take a look at what the subclass features are. And then we're going to talk about possible things that would fit into this. So just to give you an idea of cool combinations that would play in what we've got. These sections will take roughly 5, 6, who knows, maybe 10 minutes. I like to ramble. But the big 3 things that we get are 3, 7, and 10. Those are our break points for the Archer. Really, the most important stuff, though, comes at level 3, because this gives us access to everything, right? We get our arcane arrows, we get our arcane shots, and they work as they work. But the big thing here to know is the spell save DC for these actions uses intelligence. That's another little bit of flavor that we're going to use to help spice how this multi-class is going to work. I was like, oh, what term I want to use here? But yeah, how this multi-class is going to work. And we're going to get all of these. I've gone through all these individual abilities in their own videos and whatnot, so I'm going to spare you that, and you can by all means go ahead and jump through it. At level 7, though, we do get a good set of situations. So when you miss with any magical range attack, use a bonus action to attack the next closest target with the same attack. All of your range attacks are considered magical to overcome resistance from magic arrow as well. And we get more additional arcane arrows, and we get 1 more arcane shot. So 7 has a lot of use. But what about 10? So 10 does have good use because we get now 1 more, we get an additional arcane shot and 3 more arcane arrows, but it's a heavy investment. And what we really look at in that point, that break point, is what does it now rob me of and anything else I want to take advantage of? So when you look at this, I think Arcane Archer is unique in that you can just simply take 3 levels of it and be totally fine. Curving shot is really cool, but there's a lot of other things that you could do with that bonus action that may be way more beneficial. Getting access to more of these charges is great, and getting another whole shot to take advantage of is really cool too. But really, realistically, if you were to take 3 levels of Arcane Archer and 9 levels of even Swarmkeeper, it's really cool. Because yes, sure, you're a ranger and rangers do scale off of wisdom, but you don't really need to worry about that wisdom as much as if you don't want. But also with Arcane Archer, since you are based off of intelligence, you can have some fun with this and spice this into Arcane Trickster from Rogue. You can spice this into Wizard and have a lot of fun, especially if you went Wizard Abjuration to give yourself a ton of tank ability. And you could just simply take 3 levels into Fighter and then 9 more levels into Wizard. You'd have a ton of spell slots. You'd have the Abjuration capabilities to give you a ton of survivability. And then you'd be able to take advantage of all the intelligence bonuses to your Wizard spells and to the spell save DCs of this. And remember what I said about taking a look at that parent class. Well, 2 levels of fighter is really good. You get action surge, you're going to get an extra action. You get a fighting style here, so it's going to give you bonuses to using your bow and arrow. So you're a tried and true range class that wears heavy armor and casts spells. So the Arcane Archer mixed in with a wizard is a build that I'm actually going to do on the channel, but it's a really cool one that I think is really awesome. And just another kind of wild card here. You can go Arcane Archer and still stick with the notion of wisdom and intelligence and jump into a war cleric if you so wish. That's going to give you more attacks, but you don't have to use the wisdom characteristics of a cleric. And that's when it comes down to that 7-5 split. Remember, level 7 gives us all these cool things. And remember how I said level 5 is when we get a lot of the cool stuff for most of our casters? Well, 5 levels into cleric, war cleric specifically, gets us Spirit Guardians, which is a really good AoE spell that does damage around us. And we also get access to the war cleric's capability to use a bonus action to do another attack. So we can use curving shot if we miss, or use the war cleric's capability to use their channel divinity to just get another shot on target. And we got 5 levels of it, so you have a lot of cool things you can take advantage of. You can heal, you can do other things like that. And remember, none of these require concentration. So you can have Spirit Guardians up while you're doing arcane shots. One last one to throw in here is, of course, the Sword Bard to just add more destruction to a range class. Arcane Archer and Sword Bard is probably the pinnacle of having ranged capabilities. So keep those things in mind when you're thinking about multiclassing your Arcane Archer. Well, if it isn't the one class that I have talked about way too goddamn much, I'm doing my build in my stream as a Bladesinger fighter, but Bladesinger is just so good. Bladesinger is awesome. And really, truly, you just need 2 levels in it to turn it on. Bladesong turns on at level 2. You only can have 2 charges of it, so just keep that in mind. And from there, you can go crazy. I was gonna talk about how you could take Bladesinging and bring it into Arcane Archer. Just do 2 levels of Bladesinging and 10 levels of Arcane Archer. But unfortunately, Bladesong only works with melee weapon attacks, which was so sad for me. So if you were thinking of doing that like I was, you cannot, unfortunately. But you do get this, more Bladesong uses. You get an extra attack at level 6, which is nice, because this allows you to, what's it called? You can multiclass in with like a rogue, and rogue doesn't get extra attack natively, right? So if you wanted to do something like the rogue thief, you don't need to rely on the rogue delivering extra attack to your melee character, which Bladesong really kind of turns you into a melee character. You can instead derive your extra attack just simply by going through this. So you could take your 3 levels of rogue to get thief, to get an extra bonus action, and then take your 9 levels here to get extra attack, and then get your 4th use of Bladesong power. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. Last thing here is level 10. When you take damage during your Bladesong, so when it is active, you can expend a spell slot to subtract 5 damage per spell slot. You'll probably only want to do this with levels 1 and 2. If you're 10 levels into this, you have a ton of spell slots to take advantage of, and you have, remember again, that parent class capability. You have Arcane Recovery that you can replenish spell slots with. So you have tons of spell. Let's just look at level 10, right? Level 10's got 4, 3, 3, 2, across the board from 1st to 5th levels, with the 5th level one obviously negating 25 damage, with the 1st level negating 5 damage. So you have those 2 options that you can pursue. Bladesinging is unique in that, yes, you're going to be based off of intelligence because you are a wizard, but if you just want to use the Bladesong capabilities of this, nothing from Bladesong is dictated by your casting capability. I mean, well, there's this, right? The save of the actual thing itself is from your spell save DC, which is going to be intelligence for the sake of Bladesong. But even on a save, enemies still take half. So when you see that, it's kind of like a nice thing to hear, because you're like, cool, I don't need to go that hard in the paint, because they're even if I did 50 damage, they're still going to take 25 of it. It's not going to be 50 or 0. So that's a nice thing to always hear when it comes to this thing. That's why Spirit Guardians is so good, because even if you're not speccing into it, you can still get damage coming out of it. So you can just take 2 levels of Bladesong to turn it on for anything else that you want to do it with. It just relegates you. You cannot use anything other than light armor, and you cannot use a shield. So those are your restrictions by using it. So some things that can actually work pretty well with it are even still Arcane Trickster, which is going to be sitting in that light armor. I'm doing this with an Eldritch Knight and just using low armor. The way I think truly the way that I'm doing it is 10 levels of Bladesong, because I personally wanted to pull more levels of wizard into the character, because I've never played a wizard, and then 2 levels of fighter. That's fine, because that turns on action surge. But I think the best way to really do Bladesinging with Eldritch Knight is 5 levels of Bladesong, so 5 levels of wizard, and then 7 levels of Eldritch Knight, which turns on War Magic. War Magic allows us to use our bonus action to do damage with a weapon after we've used a cantrip for our primary action. So those are just some ways that you can take this. And like I said, you really only need to take 2 level dips if you want to. I mean, you don't really need to go that hard into level 5 or 6, especially, if you're trying to do this with any kind of bard. Bard is going to go off of charisma, right, when it comes to its casting capabilities. But what's really cool is Bladesong with a lore bard is awesome, because you're not going to use any of the wizard stuff. You just take 2 levels here, then 10 levels into lore bard. Let me fucking tell you, that is going to be spicy for you. You go 10 levels into the Lore Bard and you focus on Lore Bard as your primary casting capability. And Lore Bard in and of itself, Lore Bard will get access to Cutting Words, which is really good. And they get 2 non-bard spells from Magical Secrets twice. Lore Bard is the only bard that gets to tap into this 2 times at level 6, which is unique to them, and then at level 10. And Magical Secrets gets you level 5 spells. So Banishing Smite, Cone of Cold, Conjure Elemental, Wall of Stone, and Contagion. All these things in conjunction with your Blade Song, which keeps you in light armor, which is fine. And you're using just one weapon, which is fine. And you float around and do force damage and heal people. It's a really good combo for that subclass. Circle of Stars for the Druid is another one that is just really awesome. And it's one that's like, you could just take 10 pure levels of it and be really good. The first level dip is really the big thing here, because your wild shape charges turn you into Starry Form Archer, Chalice, and Dragon, which are going to heal, do radiant damage, or do radiant AoE damage. Well, I think it's Cone actually. The big thing here is Guiding Bolt. Guiding Bolt is going to be just used in mass by this character. And then level 6 for Cosmic Omen. What I would say is level 6 is the big one for this build. Well, maybe not the big one, but it is a really nice thing to use, especially if you're in honor mode, because you basically get the same thing that the Divination Wizard gets, where an Omen grants you the ability to increase or decrease attack rolls and saving throws, and to increase your allies' ability checks. So it's a very nice to have. You get 3 resources used for Omens, replenished by Long Rest. You get 3 casts of it. You get 3 casts of your star map, which you can use to cast Guiding Bolt without using a spell slot, which is just really, really sick. So it's a really nice situation to use. And on top of it, again, this is the parent class we're talking about. You use your wild shape charges to do the starry forms, right? Well, at level 6, we get, and does not show here. Well, we get more wild shape charges by that point. A wild shape improvement, which doesn't really affect us because we're not taking advantage of it. But either way, you get more wild shape charges by the time. There's not, I thought there was like a spot here for wild shape charges. Either way. So level 6 is the big one. And we know, and if you don't know, I'll just show you really quick. Luminous Arrow is based off of your wisdom modifier's damage. So that's another big thing with Circle of the Stars. You're going to want to focus wisdom in this, because that's the point of doing this, is to get the damage and the healing and everything. Chalice healing, I think, is also off your wisdom modifier. Yeah, off your wisdom modifier as well. So you want to focus on that. So what options do you have for this? You want to jump into something like a monk. 4 elements monk thematically is probably pretty cool and fun for this. But what you really can do with this combination, oh man, it's so cool. Every time I talk about these, I'm like, oh, I'm making another video right now. Is Star Druid, and then Monk. And we're going to go into the Way of the Open Hand to get Manifestation of Soul. So this will add 1d4 plus Wisdom modifier radiant damage to our unarmed attacks. It will not affect, unfortunately. Actually, someone was saying in a Reddit post or on a comment on my video, one or the other, that Manifestation of Soul will help out your starry form, but I have not corroborated that. So if anyone can confirm that in the comment section below, by all means, go ahead and let me know. So that's an amazing thing. We put those two together. 6 levels of both gets us a ton of capability, and all of the really juicy things that Monk gets too can be added in. So we go Circle of Stars, pull in that all of our starry forms, pull in our Cosmic Omen, and then pull in that Manifestation of Soul. Focus on the radiant portions of the game. So the radiant rings, there is luminous armor and a cool helmet. You don't even need to use those. You could just simply work on the radiant orb portion of radiant damage and just completely wreck house. The open hand monk is strong enough as it is. So you put these two together, you have 2 of the strongest subclasses existing in one character. Honor mode is going to be quite easy. So for the Bard College of Glamour, we have a character that focuses on using charms. Charming things. Level 3 and level 6 are its big breakpoints. You do get one at level 10, but it's pretty much just an increase to the temporary hit points and a number of targets affected by the Mantle of Inspiration. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is probably the one I've had the hardest time figuring out how to multi-class effectively, because the mechanics of the College of Glamour Bard don't stand out as something that I can really amp up multi-class wise. There's a lot of items in the game that will play around with Frightened or with Charmed. The only two mechanics I can think of to play around here are with Warlock, and it does work because you are a bard who's already using charisma, and it's a natural thing. Bard lock is a very common combination. It's the question of, do we go to 3 or 6? And 6 is cool because you get this capability to command a creature to flee, move closer, freeze, drop to the ground, or drop its weapon. So basically you can command something, like the spell says, command, but using like the cleric spell command. Targets that are charmed automatically fail their saving throw. So you'd want to use these in tandem, right? You'd use Mantle of Inspiration, and you'd put it on yourself or your allies. And yeah, the temp hit points, they're very small, but by the time you'd get this, you'd have 8 temp hit points. Is again very small, but the point of it is, if they hit you with a melee attack, the attacker becomes charmed. Doesn't roll a saving throw to see if they become charmed. They are charmed. So that is a nice portion of this that's probably overlooked. And what you could do is use this with the Archfey. An Archfey has, did I have it up there? No, it's not there. The Archfey has the ability to use a primary action to try to charm things in a 10-foot radius around. So you could use Mantle of Majesty command as the bonus action after you use Archfey's AoE charm. There's also plenty of spells, and that's one thing, again, just to kind of harp on this. One thing the parent class affords you that you don't necessarily see when you're taking a look at this spell list is that there are spells that do charm things that are not. Is Enthrall a charm? Enthrall or Confuse, one of them's a charm. But there are spells that will charm things that don't outright call it, like the spell charms something, right? But Hypnotic Pattern, is that the one that charms things? They cannot, no, it's just its own effect. I might be completely talking out of my ass right here. But still, my point remains is that you'd want to use all of these kind of lockdown effects in tandem. That's kind of that's the role of the College of Glamour Bard, is more of a CC, crowd control style of character. So Archfey, I think, works really well here, but also the Great Old One works well as well, because the Mantle of Inspiration and Majesty are going to charm things, whereas the Great Old Ones, when you critical hit something, you have a chance to frighten them. So you just are you're able to dole out a lot of nice CC into the build through your passive ability as Great Old Ones Warlock, or the bonus action. So you wouldn't waste your primary action trying to do it. You could even then do Confusion, Hypnotic Pattern, Enthrall, all those other ones as your primary action to try to lock down as many things as possible. I think that's really the crux of College of Glamour, is you're not an offensive powerhouse. You are allowing things to be locked down so your party can just clean up the rest for you. Another one of my favorites that has come in with patch 8 is the Death Domain Cleric. I love it. Even just one level of this is really good. I have lots of builds that I've already played with this, lots of builds I have in mind for this. It's a really cool one for Shadowheart if you want to take it on the evil route, because let's look at that level 1 breakpoint. Your necromancy cantrips, doesn't matter where they're coming from, they now can target one creature more than they could before. So your Bone Chill, your Toll the Dead, your Bursting Sinew, they all now target an additional creature. It's a really nice little ditty to use right out the gate. And when you take this doesn't really kind of lay it out like this, but when you take one level of Death Domain Cleric, you get access to Bone. You can configure it. You have to do it a special way, but you can configure it. So you get Bone Chill, Toll the Dead, and Bursting Sinew all from just that one level. So you have all 3 of the necromancy cantrips online with the ability to target more targets, and they scale pretty well. Because remember, cantrips scale. Does this show? They scale with your level. Most damage dealing cantrips gain an additional damage die at character level 5 and another at 10. Keep in mind that says character level, not caster level. That's important. So you could take 1 level of cleric and then have 11 levels of fighter, hypothetically, and the cantrips will get better at 5 and at 10. So these will always be relevant to your playthrough. Then level 2 is the real big one here with Channel Divinity Touch of Death. When you hit a creature with a melee attack, you can use your Channel Divinity charge to deal an extra 5 plus 2 times your cleric level. So if we were just to take this to 2, that would be 5 plus 2 plus 2. It's really, really great. And Channel Divinity, I believe, replenishes on a short rest. I can never remember these things. But either way, you have this as a really great linchpin of amping up necrotic damage. You can use this character so well with the Spore Druid that it is disgusting, because while you do get spell breakpoints at 3 and 5, and we talked about level 5 being a big thing to turn on level 3 spells, level 6 is the most important one of the death domain if you're trying to do big necrotic damage. Damage you deal ignores resistance to necrotic damage, which is one of the most resisted damage types in the game. So if you're playing a Spore Druid, which has plenty of necrotic damage built into its just base toolkit, you now can have the ability to ignore all that resistance. It is so huge. And you're playing with Wisdom, right? You don't even need to play with Wisdom to use this character. So just keep that in mind as well. I just put up a build that uses 6 levels of Death Cleric, and the Cleric portion of it is not even necessarily the biggest damage dealing portion of it. We mix it with 6 levels of Shadow Monk, and Shadow Monk allows us to just jump around. But really, honestly, the best way to make that build that I put up is 6 levels of Death Cleric and 6 levels of Open Hand Monk. I just try not to talk about Open Hand Monk all the time because it's just that damn good. But Way of the Open Hand, as we saw earlier when we talked about it, just in case you jumped to this point in the video, Manifestation of Body has that 1d4 plus Wisdom modifier with necrotic damage. So if we just focus on pure Wisdom modifier, we're playing a monk, we're playing a cleric, we bring these two together, and bingo, bango, bongo, we're just doing tons of necrotic damage. You could just simply, like I said though, take 2 levels of this and use the Channel Divinity Touch of Death. You could just take the 1 level of this and then do 11 levels into a Necromancer Wizard. I have a build that I'm working on that is 2 levels of Necromancer Wizard and then 4 levels of Death Cleric, so that you pull in lots of capabilities and then play in with some other mechanics outside of that. But I just wanted the best of both worlds, right? I wanted to turn on the necromancy portion here and there, and I wanted to turn on some cleric portion here and there. I don't want to, that build's not completely fleshed out, so I don't want to go that deep in the weeds of it. But my point remains is you want to look at the big breakpoints. It's at 1, it's at 2 for more melee damage, and it's at 6 to ignore all that necrotic damage resistance you will encounter with this build. Level 8 is nice, but honestly, the Divine Strikes are something that you almost always kind of get thrown to the wayside for other mechanics that you're going to get from a multi-class. Once per turn, which is nice, deal 1d8 necrotic in addition to your weapon's damage when you make a melee attack. It's just a once per turn situation. So if you are doing a melee character and let's say you attacked twice with 2 primary actions, you'd only do 1d8 necrotic damage extra per that 1 turn. But the nice thing here is you would be able to amp this up plus Touch of Death with that 1 hit. So it is nice. I just find the Divine Strikes just kind of always fall to the wayside for something else I want to pull more damage out of. This is just the game's way of saying, well, we know if you're going 8 levels into Cleric, you're not going to be able to turn on extra attack no matter what you do. So here is a 1d8 to kind of basically give you a free pseudo extra attack. That's why this exists. But I think Divine Strike is something that you almost always skip over. Giant Barb is another big one that's coming out heavy, hard, and fast. And this makes a throwing barb even better. So level 3 is when we become a Giant Barb. That's the subclass level for the Barbarian. Enter a rage and increase in size. Your rage damage bonus is doubled on throw attacks, which is awesome. Your carrying capacity is increased, and you get that cantrip. Who cares? Boot of the Giants is whatever. The biggest thing that happens though for this build is at level 6. Channel Primordial Might into your weapon. Until the end of your rage, your weapon will deal acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage and gain the thrown property. If thrown, it will immediately reappear in your hand. So you basically get the capability of binding a weapon like an Eldritch Knight does that people used to cheese to make themselves throw certain things with their Barbarian. Or if you were an Eldritch Knight, you could be an Eldritch throwing Knight and use all these things together. This allows you to not have to do any kind of cheese. It's built into level 6 of the class, and then you just simply have fun with it and take advantage of your rage, your level 6 elemental cleaver, and most importantly, the thrown characteristic. Remember, when you're throwing an object, if it does not have the thrown property, then it will not use its damage as the damage value. It will use its weight to determine the damage value. Thrown allows you to say, like, oh, let's just say you're throwing the Baldur Slayer, and let's say that just does, I don't know off the top of my head, I'm just going to make up numbers, 10 to 40 damage. If it has the thrown property, which the elemental cleaver will give it, it will do that damage. Otherwise, it will look at the weight and affix a damage value that fits into some sort of chart. I think it shows you in here somewhere. No, it doesn't. If it's a certain weight, and it's like, oh, okay, if it's under this amount, it does this much damage. Over this amount, it does this much damage. So this allows you to throw every weapon in the game and imbue it with an element, which is really damn cool. Your weapon will deal additional damage and gain blah, blah, blah. So that additional damage too here, I thought it was based off of something. And just to kind of talk about this Tavern Brawler, when the enchanted weapon is thrown, the elemental damage behaves like a damage rider as a source. This bonus damage will independently be boosted by rage damage, which is already doubled due to Giant's Rage, by Tavern Brawler damage, by Ring of Flinging, by the Gloves of Uninhibited Kushigo, and many others. This is true even in honor mode. It makes it so you just do a disgusting amount of damage, an absolute disgusting amount of damage. It's 1d6 there. To the end of your turn, your weapon will deal 1d6, and gain the thrown property. It will throw it immediately, reappear in your hand, so on and so forth. So being able to then play with all the ways that you can stack reverb from Elemental Cleaver Thunder is going to be huge. And ways that you can split this multi-class up. I mean, yeah, Mighty Impel is fine, but really, again, to talk about horses being dead and beaten or whatever the saying is, level 7 is Feral Instinct, that one I talked about. You're going to gain +3 initiative and you can't be surprised. So we can see that, you know, going harder into Barbarian is actually pretty worth it. And then we get level 9 for Brutal Critical here. The Barbarian makes their critical hits even deadlier. You are trained to strike, blah, blah, blah. When you land a critical hit, you roll an extra damage die as well as a normal additional critical die. So a really common but kind of boring mix is 9 levels of Barbarian and 3 levels of Champion. This allows you to pull in so that you critical hit on a 19 rather than just a 20, and you already get your brutal criticals, and there's plenty of other ways to amp up your critical damage. But pretty much you can see that going harder into Barbarian for your multi-class situation is actually very advantageous, since you don't need to really worry about anything other than strength. Caveat to that is you can just simply work around strength elixirs if you really want to. If you're new to the game, you know what that means, then don't worry about it. I think a lot of people end up falling into the elixir gameplay, and they just kind of put themselves in a specific lane of playing characters, and I don't want you to do that if you're brand new to the game. Explore the game, explore, and find all the fun things to do, then break it all later. But with this, you have the freedom to do a lot of stuff. It used to be too, you go 3 levels into Thief to get a bonus action. You don't really have to worry about that because that bonus action was being used by Berserker Barbarian, which would use its bonus action to throw. So try and spice this in a bunch of different directions. You can just simply take the 6 levels here if you want and go 6 levels more into more of a fighting character, right? Pull in more stuff from battle maneuvers, which work while you're in rage, by the way. Stuff like that to really have some fun, to give you a little bit more purpose when it comes to throwing things. Or you could even just take 7, you could go 7 levels here into Barbarian, take that 5 levels into Fighter if you so wish. You get that Feral Instinct turned on, and then you have some fun. Just remember, if you are using Rage, you can't cast spells. You can cast spells before though. So another thing people have been doing has been summoning stuff. You can summon something and then go enraged because that summon does not require concentration or anything like that. So you're fine. You're good to go. So you can do some fun mechanics like that. I mean, Shadow Sorcerer is weird, right? Because it's charisma based, but you could go Shadow Sorcerer Barbarian if you really wanted to and summon stuff up with the Hound of Ill Omen. I'd have to see how the Warlock interaction happens with a Cursed Spectre, because you could use you could Hexblade curse things with 6 levels of each, and then kill them from range with your throwing weapon, and technically summon stuff. So I have to see if that actually works. I don't know if you can Hexblade curse when you're enraged, but still, those are some ways that you can really combine things, and going really heavy and hard into Barbarian is not going to be lost in any way. Here it is. Probably the single strongest subclass of the entire list so far. You just need 1 level of Hexblade into any multi-class and you're fine. Because what this does is bind Hex Weapon, which lets you use your Charisma modifier instead of Strength or Dexterity when attacking with weapons that you're proficient with. This works with a Bard you want to do. This works with a Sorcerer you want to do. This works with a Sorcerer Paladin that you want to do. That is the next build that's going up on the channel. So I'm going to do 5 levels of Paladin, 1 level of Hexblade, 5 levels of Paladin, 6 levels of Sorcerer. And I'm going to use my Charisma modifier for my damage, for my summons, for my spells, everything. It's super good. And once you bind the weapon, there is a chance that weapon does the Hexblade's curse, which we know will deal bonus damage here, equal to your proficiency bonus. The number you need to roll a critical hit while the target is also reduced by 1. I think that was removed in the game. I don't remember seeing it in the text in the game just yesterday. So someone can confirm that for me. But if the target dies, you regain Warlock level plus Charisma modifier points. Wait, we're listening to the music of the game. We can just simply, there we go. Hold on. All right, so the number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking the target is reduced by 1. So I was just too spracked out on caffeine and couldn't get my numbers right. So either way, Hexblade Curse will do all the critical stuff I talked about. And like I just mentioned, if the target dies, you regain Warlock level plus Charisma modifier hit points. That's not a lot of hit points if you only take 1, but let's assume you had 20 Charisma. It's still free 6 hit points. So I'll take it. And it replenishes on a short rest. That's all from 1 level. And depending on what you are, like maybe you're a sorcerer, you now get medium armor and shields if you didn't have access to it before. So if you maybe aren't playing a half elf or a human, that gives you access to shields, or one of the dwarfs. Dwarfs? No. A half elf or a human. Maybe doesn't the shield dwarf do it? Either way, you now get that access with Hex Warrior. So when you multi-class this, it really just needs to be the 1 level. It's all you really need. But as you kind of pull harder and harder into the paint, the biggest one happens at level 6, because this makes it so that anytime we kill something that has been cursed with that Hexblade curse, they summon up as a feeble, mundane, or primordial specter. And those specters, let's just go to mundane because it's the most common one, since this is the medium creature one. They have Devour Soul and Pluck Soul, and then right behind you. So Devour Soul here will do damage and then heal you. So consume the soul of your Warlock's enemies while healing the Warlock for half the damage. Pluck Soul just does damage. Right behind you, they'll teleport to something when you attack them. They're ethereal, they're incorporeal movement. They're really sick. So just to have that at 6 levels is really strong. Like I said, you could take 6 levels of Hexblade Warlock and 6 levels of Sorcerer, which is one of my builds that I've just put up too as well. That one uses these specters and then uses the Shadow Sorcerer summons. It's a shit ton of fun. Or 6 levels of the Hexblade Warlock and then go 6 levels of like a Spore Druid and summon up zombies and have specters everywhere. You can just play around with this so much. Warlock, or specifically too, the Hexblade Warlock just gets such a good dip at the beginning here. It is worth noting they lost their extra attack that they were getting at level 5 midway through patch 8's stress test process. So if you want to use them from a melee perspective, you will need to choose Pact of the Blade in order to get that extra attack. If you're getting extra attack from something else, then you don't need to worry about it. You could actually just, in fact, if you wanted to do like a Hexblade Paladin, you could do Pact of the Tome and just get the bind hex weapon. That's all you need to do. So have fun with it, but realize that this goes with Paladin, this goes with Sorcerer, this goes with the Bard, this goes with the new Swashbuckler, because the Swashbuckler is a charisma based class. This goes with damn near everything you'd want to derive charisma from. Or even if it's not something you want to primarily focus on charisma from, you can still pull some out of it. So you have a lot of options with the Hexblade Warlock. It is the most versatile subclass, I think, added to the game. Oath of the Crown is a cattywampus paladin, meaning that it is a little wonky to play with because it has a really punishing oath break. Its oath break is very easy to happen. So when it comes to multi-classing this, just make sure that you have a very clear path of what you've got, because its level 1 thing here is target yourself or an ally to additionally grant the target's proficiency bonus to their attacks. It's great to get through those hard to hit times when you're fighting a boss, because it's a bonus action to turn this on. They do have cool level 3 abilities to turn the tide, which is a heal, and then Champion's Challenge. Any attacks they might make against targets have disadvantage if they're not targeting you. So this is your tank. And to be totally fair, there are few times where I would want to step away from the paladin to make a tank like this. I think you bring truly, I wouldn't even go to the 7th level on this character. 7th level here allows you to basically use a reaction to then substitute your health for another person's, in the sense that you heal them for 2x paladin level in hit points, then you take 2x paladin level in radiant damage. So basically, rather than them getting hit, when an ally within 5 feet of you takes damage, you use your reaction to magically substitute your own health for the allies, healing them by 2x paladin level, and you take 2x paladin level. So it's nice. It's just it does a lot of damage to you. It's a heavy investment at 7 levels. Usually level 7 is when you get access to your nice aura, right? So let's go to 7. So 7 here, you get your aura protection at 6, which is really good. And then you usually get another round of auras from subclass features. But this subclass doesn't get it. So that 7th level investment is going to be pretty hard and heavy. And you get improved smite at 11. You get aura of courage at 10 to help you negate being frightened, which is cool. So if you're going 6 levels, you have to really determine for yourself, am I going to the 7th for that subclass feature that I want right there? Am I going to really push in for the Divine Allegiance? In my mind, if I'm building this out for a true tank, I want Oath of Crown Paladin to be my frontline tank. I'm probably actually going to take 6 levels of a Light Cleric, because Light Cleric gives me, let's go to that, a really cool ability for tanking, and it's called Warding Flare. At level 1, it's shield yourself with Divine Light, use your reaction to impose disadvantage on an attacker, possibly causing their attack to miss. So yes, you don't get to substitute life and health. You don't heal the target and then do damage to yourself. You just have a pretty good chance that thing just outright missing, which is really nice. So I think that this is like probably the best way to play, because at level 6, improve Warding Flare is when you can do it to an ally. I think personally, this is a better use of my reaction than the one from the Crown Paladin, because the biggest thing you have to see with Warding Flare here is the range on it. The range on it's super far. It's like almost the whole battlefield. I think it's like 30 feet or whatever. But maybe I just go to here and I can see it on Warding Flare. No, it's not there for some reason. But it's much, much further than the one we get from Oath of the Crown Paladin, which is only like 7. There you go. Yeah, 5 feet. 5 feet. So you have to be really nuts to butts with someone to actually get this one to go off, versus this gives me a ton of really good way to mitigate damage. And remember, level 6, right? So we're going to be a level 5 cleric, which is then going to grant me access to the radiant damage from Spirit Guardians. This, I think, is the real true best tank. 6 and 6 Crown and what the hell is it called? Light Cleric. And also you get Radiance of Dawn to just blow up with a bunch of radiant damage all over the place. I think these two really work really well together. But also too, you're a charisma based class, so you could spice into sorcerer, you could spice into bard. A sword bard specifically with Crown Paladin could be pretty fun. And I think you'd only need to take 3 levels here, and then you could put a bunch more into bard to make it so that you're just doing a bunch of smites and you take advantage of the sword bard's ability to use all their sword abilities, which increase your armor class. So you can really have fun with trying to divert attention your way while also having fun access to all the bard CC capabilities as well. limited Bard CC capabilities level, not from 9 levels of Bard. Now, another real big popular one is Shadow Magic. 1 level of Shadow Magic is pretty cool when it comes to the Sorcerer because it gives us access to Strength of the Grave. After reaching 0 hit points, you regain 1 instead of becoming downed. Personally, I'd probably not just take 1 level of Sorcerer. It's not as useful as doing Draconic Bloodline, where you get then a bonus by just kind of going down that route. I think it's level 6 you get your bonus, but still, it's not one that you get a whole ton of awesome benefit from level 1. Level 3, we just get some darkness capabilities. Eyes of the Darkness is cool because it does not require a spell slot. It just requires sorcery points. The big thing what we want from 6 levels of investment is Hound of Ill Omen. Shadow Walk is okay, but at level 11, the next spell you cast a turn, that turn will benefit from distance spell without costing any sorcery points. It's nice because it's a bonus action that doesn't have a reset. So basically you can teleport around as a bonus action and then on your primary action use distance spell without costing anything. And it will constantly be up. So it is really good, but it's a heavy investment. So you have to ask yourself, do I want that heavy investment in this character? You could still do 11 levels of Shadow Sorcerer and 1 level of Hexblade and be a melee character. And that's sick. So you could have fun with that if you so wish, or at least use your Hexblade curse in some way, shape, or form. Because Hound of Ill Omen here is really cool. You get Nimbus, which is a Shadow Mastiff that has a bite called Omen. And Omen, when you bite something, you choose an element: acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison, or thunder. And when damage of that type is dealt, not has a chance, is dealt, the owner of the hound regains 1 sorcery point. So this is a battery of sorcery points for you. And when the Nimbus gets hit, it splits into 2 using a reaction. The Splinter Shadow that it splits into does not have Ominous Bite, so keep that in mind. And it also gets Umbral Tangle to trap your enemies. So the cool thing though is, under special circumstances only, Nimbus will get right behind you. Right behind you is a special reaction available to the specters from the Warlock. It can additionally be acquired by Nimbus by moving adjacent to an accursed specter. It's why a really good combo for the Shadow Sorcerer is Hexblade Sorcerer. Hexblade Warlock. You can go 6 into it, right, to get the accursed specters. Then you get your 6 more for Shadow Sorcerer to do your Hound of Ill Omen. That's my Death Knight build I just put up, and you're good to go. And you can have a lot of fun with this. You can go 6 levels here. You can go 6 levels into Lore Bard, and then Lore Bard will be able to take advantage of those magical secrets to pull in more stuff like Warden of Vitality and other cool spells. There's a lot of cool ways you can do that. But another real famous, or why do I keep saying famous? Another popular combination is the Sorcerer in conjunction with Paladin. And like I said before too, when I talked about Warlock and Paladin, 1 level of Hexblade makes my Paladin take all of their charisma and put it into their weapon. So 1 Hexblade, 5 Paladin, 6 Shadow Sorcerer is a really good combination to have a summon, to have good damage, to have charisma based attacks. So find that breakpoint, right? 6 is that big breakpoint for this multi-class to really give you a lot of good spice. I don't think anything below that is really worth the investment here. Level 11 does require just so much more to pull out of it. You really need to say, okay, I'm going to do that Hexblade is going to be the one, or whatever it is just going to be a single dip. Maybe it's Cleric and you want to go into Storm Cleric, or the Storm Domain to pull the ability from there. Whatever it is, there's not a lot of single dips you want to do, I would say. Death Cleric could be cool too. Death Cleric to pull in the ability for the cantrips on the Necromancy. There are, I mean, an old popular build was 11 Sorcerer, 1 Wizard, and then you could scribe any wizard spell you wanted, and you'd be able to use that spell because all of your spells, you'd have tons of spell slots because you'd basically be a pure 12 level caster. So that's another thing you can do there with this possibility for multi-class. Coming into our final 3, we have the Swarmkeeper Ranger. Now the Swarmkeeper Ranger is interesting. Its biggest breakpoint is right here at level 3. right here at level 3. There we go. And that's where you get access to Gathered Swarm. That's the biggest driving thing of the Swarmkeeper. Legion of Bees, Cloud of Jellyfish, and Flurry of Moths. Each one does different attack attributes and different utility options. Bees are piercing, jellyfish are lightning, moths are psychic. And then they all have a respective teleport, which allows you to move 17 feet away. And then there's a different utility option. So bees knock back, jellyfish will sting and shock, and moths will blind. So they each have their own use case. Once per round, the swarm can assist you in one of these 3 ways after you attack an enemy. It can attack and deal an additional psychic damage, blind your enemy, or teleport you to a safer location. In the example of Flurry of Moths. So you do one of these after you attack, if you didn't know. You then get access to the Mage Hand and Fairy Fire. Level 5 is not a great breaking point. Level 7 is an interesting one because dents part of your swarm into a mass that lifts you up, gain a flying speed of 30 feet, and become unaffected by surface effects. So this is kind of a cool one for some mobility, right? You get 3 casts this level 7. The biggest thing that you get with Swarmkeeper happens at level 11 with Mighty Swarm. It's the same issue that the Beastmaster suffers from. The Beastmaster's summons are really good, then they fall off sharply and then get good again at level 11. That the investment requirement is just too high in my opinion. Level 11, I won't really be able to multi-class except for 1 level. And even then, like the pure Swarmkeeper, it's not terrible, it's just not that amazing compared to like a pure Hexblade or something of that sort, right? Even a pure cleric is just so much better. Like a pure light cleric, if you never play with one, they're so good. So taking a look at these, now they do an extra 1d8 of piercing damage to the target, or they get you now fly and get +2 AC, or each one of the utility options has an additional effect. So for the bees, it knocks you prone. For the jellyfish, it disarms you. For the moths, it slows you. I just would have loved to have seen this happen at like 9 or 10 instead of 11. It just gives me that much more flexibility. So unfortunately, I think truly the break point for Swarmkeeper is just at a comfortable 3, maybe 7 if you want to use the mobility portion of it. But my big use case for the Swarmkeeper has actually been with a fighter, using the Arcane Archer to really have these 2 work in conjunction for me to amp up the piercing damage of my arrows, to add more lightning damage to all the effects that I'm trying to do, to add in more psychic damage. And that's another thing too to kind of think about. If you're using the Shadow Blade on the new spell that you can use on so many casters right now, it's big on Hexblade, you could just take 3 levels of Ranger to just get an extra 1d6 psychic damage onto your Shadow Blade on top of the booming blade you're going to do whenever you want to tap I want to say whenever you want to tap ass, whenever you want to tap into it. But you also too can add in the teleport of that of the moth specifically, or the blind, which is really good. So I think multi-classing the Swarmkeeper doesn't bring you above level 3. Not really, unless you have a clear-cut idea of what you want from the Ranger kit as a whole. Because the Swarmkeeper's kit at level 7, yeah, we talked about that, being able to move around. Level 7 though, you do get Favored Enemy and Natural Explorer again, so you can get full-on resistance to poison and fire damage across these 2 Natural Explorers. But you get your extra attack here, you get your fighting style that you get access to. So you could take 7 levels of Swarmkeeper and then put the rest of the levels in, I don't know, a rogue Swashbuckler. And the reason behind this is you can get access. Well, let me just, Swashbuckler is the next one, but you get access to your other capabilities here, like Vicious Mockery, which is a cantrip. So I don't think it triggers it, but it does psychic damage, or even any of these other abilities. We'll talk about that in just a little bit here. Oh, where am I going? I got to do this. I got to press that. Then we're going back to here. So there are ways you can bring the 7 levels online for Ranger, and maybe that's 7 levels of Ranger and 5 levels into a Nature Cleric. And Nature Clerics aren't bad by any stretch of the imagination. Maybe it's 5 levels of one of the Druids. Maybe you just take the 3 levels here of the Swarmkeeper and 9 levels into Star Druid. You're overlapping your Wisdom modifier. You're using range capabilities from the Star Druid. You're using the capabilities period of the Swarmkeeper, because the Swarmkeeper doesn't care if you're doing Let's see here. Once you run this, it can assist you in one of these after you attack an enemy. Not melee, not ranged, either or. So the attack portion is what triggers all of these swarms. So I don't think the Swarmkeeper is a good heavy investment, but I think it's a nice light dip to augment the mobility or augment the damage potential of a lot of other characters. I mean, dude, you could even focus on this for like the lightning portion for a draconic sorcerer that's trying to amp up their lightning, because it's not determined by your wisdom modifier or anything. So have fun with these and try to think out of the box of the spellcasting modifier that is usually a limiting factor in your multi-class, and try to use these. Go, okay, what is doing my piercing damage? Okay, all my bows are, let me do this. Or all my daggers are, let me use this. What's doing my lightning damage? It's all my spells. What's doing my psychic damage? It's my shadow blade. Or maybe I just want the effect of being able to push something back. Whatever it is, adding these things in is a really cool portion of the Swarmkeeper that I think is easy to overlook. Swashbuckler has turned into a class that I have multi-classed so much in a lot of my experimental builds, and it has really good breakpoints. I think of all the subclasses outside of the Hexblade, its breakpoints are at good, comfortable levels that you can get a lot out of the Swashbuckler and a ton out of anything else. Because 3 is your big one, because you get your audacity here, which gives you a sneak attack that is special to the Swashbuckler. How their sneak attack works is for one, you just get a flat 2 bonus to your initiative rolls. So that is now present for you. And it scales with your rogue level. It's basically after proficiency. It goes 2, 3, and 5, I believe it is. We're going to find out right here. Yeah. I'm sorry, not 2, 3, and 5. Sorry, 2, 3, and 4, because, you know, the number after 3 is not 5. So it's 2, 3, and 4, and it's different than your proficiency just slightly. Because I think proficiency happens at 9 for your plus for the highest bonus. Big breath of fresh air. Now, you no longer need advantage to trigger sneak attack. That is the biggest thing here. So this allows you to do sneak attack melee or ranged without having to be sneaking and without having to have advantage. Just as long as you don't have disadvantage or they are not within 5 feet of another target. So you no longer need advantage to trigger sneak attack as long as you are within 5 feet of the target. Sorry, the way that I said that sounded funky. And you don't have a disadvantage. That's it. That's all you got to worry about. It's super advantageous. The ranged one though is you can use this attack without advantage if there are no other combatants within 7 feet of the target, or if you have an ally within that range. So if you have someone who's up close and personal, you get to sneak attack for as long as you don't have disadvantage. It's really awesome. And also fancy footwork makes it so if you do a melee attack, you don't incur opportunity attack to get away. So just 3 levels, spice it into whatever the hell you want, and you get a lot of advantage from it. Sneak attack does scale with the amount, the odd number of rogue levels. So you're not going to get this thing to get completely crazy with the damage, but it does open up free mobility, right? This is basically the mobile feat for 3 levels rather than the 4 level investment and the requirement of a feat choice. So that's a really big perk in and of itself. You could just simply take this and never touch the sneak attack and just get basically a feat 1 level earlier and have 2 more feet to take advantage of if you want a 9-3 split. So take a look at that for the Swashbuckler. It's really good. But Rakish Audacity is also amazing to add into anything. Unfortunately, I don't think you can use sneak attack even if you're, let me go sneak attack melee. I don't think you can do it at all if you're enraged. I think it prevents you from doing it if you look at the rage one. But there, you can do this in so many ways. The sneak attack reaction will trigger when using flurry of blows while building a finesse weapon in your main hand and use the weapon's damage type, meaning so if you're a monk, you can take advantage of it, which is really, really cool. But you can use this for sword bards, and why I'm going to say bards is because of what we're going to talk about level 4. You can use this for your fighter if you're going battle master. You can use to give you a lot of mobility as like a more of a light armored fighter. You can even use this on a paladin if you want, because of what I'm going to talk about in level 4. So being able to combine this, you can use this on it works so well with Hexblade Warlock. My pirate build does 4 levels of this and then 8 levels of Hexblade Warlock, and it's perfect because level 4 dirty tricks. You get 3 abilities that trigger off of your bonus attack, and why you can go 4 levels of rogue first is dirty trick flick of the wrist is a weapon attack. So you do a weapon attack and you have a chance to disarm them. The only caveat here is that the creature has to be holding a weapon. So if you attack a zombie, it won't work. So this basically turns on extra attack at level 4 for you by using your bonus attack. It's not a true bonus attack, right? I'm sorry, it's not a true extra attack. It's using your bonus action. But all 3 of these are, Charisma is the spellcasting modifier used for these abilities, except Sand Toss, which uses Dexterity. That was recently changed. So Sand Toss specifically will use Dexterity to blind something. But Vicious Mockery is a 1d4 psychic cantrip otherwise that you get to use as a bonus action or flick of the wrist, which comes from your Charisma. So you combine this with your Paladin, with your Sorcerer, with your Bard, with your Warlock, and 4-level dip. It's so easy, so nice. The last one here is with Panache. It's just not really worth it for me. Roll a persuasion check to beguile a humanoid who must contest it with an insight check. Enemies who fail gain Panache disadvantage. Others who fail become charmed. And this disadvantage here, they have disadvantage on attack rolls against all enemies except the caster of Panache. So it's basically compelled duel as a rogue. So it's cool in and of itself, but it's a 5-level more investment that I'd rather just pull in all the other attributes of any other class from just these 2 level 3 or level 4 dips. Last, and unfortunately least, is the Way of the Drunken Master Monk. And this is a really difficult one to multi-class, in my opinion. I think if you're going to multi-class it, it's purely from a thematic standpoint and something that you want to take advantage of. And I encourage that. I want you to play how you want to play. Don't care, don't mind, ignore whatever the internet tells you about subclass. Just play it. If you want to do it, then fucking do it. Because I think when you're looking at the multi-class options for this, you can't really separate them too much. It really requires you to go through a full pure build, which isn't terrible at all. Because even Monk on a base level, if you were to take no subclass somehow or another, it would still be super strong. It's just a really great class, especially when you factor in Tavern Brawler. But the biggest portion of this is at level 4, where you hit a creature with your bare fists and possibly get them drunk. Every time Intoxicating Strike, which we just talked about, hits, the monk gains life of the party, which increases armor class and attack rolls against drunk targets. You are not drunk. You don't need to be drunk. You can make yourself drunk, and then if you do, you recover your key points. But otherwise, you don't need to do that. There are like 2-3 items in the game. There's a Great Club, which you can't use as a pure monk because monk weapons cannot be heavy. But a Great Club, if you are drunk, does do some really cool capabilities. It's called like the Punch Drunk Bastard or something like that. And then there's the Drunken Cloth, and then there's an amulet. The amulet will heal you for 2d6 or 2d8, something like that. And it's just a once per rest of some sort, I believe. Maybe it's actually once per turn. But either way, those are the advantages of being drunk. Your character doesn't need to be. Those are just items that will trigger off of them. And you do get cool things at level 6. When you're prone, you can get up faster here. Redirect here. If you get attacked, if they miss your attack, you can spend a key point and as a reaction make an unarmed attack against attacker, which other classes kind of get, or items get. Sobering Realization, hit a drunk target and sober them up by dealing bonus psychic damage. On a successful hit, the monk also loses life of the party. So you stack Intoxicating Strike into life of the party, then blow it up with Sobering Realization. So you need 9 levels to get this going. So that's really your investment point, is that 9 level to really get the value out of this as best you can. The problem is life of the party will go away if you get hit. So if you get tapped, you lose the stacks, I believe. And then if you use this, you remove all the stacks. So those stacks help with your armor class and attack rolls. So you're basically trying to do amped up damage for Sobering Realization, which is unarmed bludgeoning damage plus 2d8 plus wisdom modifier, right? So it's 2d8 plus wisdom modifiers. So it just kind of unfortunately falls to the wayside for me personally. I just think like, man, if I'm going to want to do this kind of crazy psychic damage, I'd rather just play a open hand monk, which is a reliable damage source. You can use Drunkard's Luck, which is cool, but it's very circumstantial, right? When you make an ability attack or saving throw and have disadvantage on the roll, not even just a general roll, if you have to have disadvantage, you then can spend 2 key points to negate that disadvantage for that roll. So that's at level 11. The monk kit itself is very strong, like I said, so you'll be able to pull tons of advantage into it, right? Like all these really great abilities exist for the monk. So you're not necessarily going to be a super weak class. So if you want to go with the way of the Drunken Master, by all means. I just mean if you want to multi-class it, you're probably going to want to do it after level 9. So jumping 3 levels into something like a fighter, jumping 3 levels into something like another druid or a cleric to pull advantages from the wisdom that you're going to be pouring into this class are not bad ideas. Tavern Brawler is a big source of damage when it comes to being a strength-based monk, but by all means, go with a dex-based monk. That's what I did for my open hand monk, and it wrecked house. So that's, I think, how you multi-class this, and I think it's kind of in a weird pigeonholed location because of how all their mechanics interact with one another. You just need the stacking mechanics up to 9 to really get a good advantage of them all. So at that, it brings our video here to a close. And we've gone through all 12 of the new subclasses, kind of talking about when those big breakpoints happen, what kind of combinations would feel good within those breakpoints, and how you can spice them up or down in certain directions. And go ahead and let me know in the comment section below, you know, does this help you? Does this really give you an idea of how to approach making this multi-class? Another video idea I have is just delivering you a small build for each and every one of the subclasses in a quick, not a quick video, but like, hey, let's give you a subclass combination for the Shadow Sorcerer. And it is 5 levels of this and 6 levels of that, or 7 levels of this, and just a very quick, like 2-3 minute build per subclass. So let me know if you'd like to see that video, like a massive subclass compilation video. And I've also thought about doing a video or video series where I say, hey, here's like 4 or 5 fun subclass combinations or multi-class combinations for each one of the subclasses. So again, for example, we can talk about the Arcane Archer and taking 3 levels into Arcane Archer and 9 levels into Wizard, or taking 3 levels of Swarmkeeper and 9 levels of Arcane Archer, and just giving really quick kind of teasers or previews of what those builds might look like in conjunction with longer videos later. So go ahead and let me know in the comment section below if any of those sound intriguing to you. I've got plenty more build videos coming as I'm just cranking them out as I think them up. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.